Welcome to UnHypnotized. I'm excited to announce our first sponsor, QuickBit Crypto Boutique. Owned by my good friend Dale, this amazing brick and mortar store in Regina, Saskatchewan also has a fantastic online shop. Dale was the first to help me buy Bitcoin, and since then, I've bought everything from hardware wallets to panties for Bitcoin and this cute tag. QuickBit is an authorized reseller of top brands, and you can purchase with Bitcoin, Lightning, and enjoy fast shipping. These are real Bitcoiners running a real business, and I can't recommend them enough. Welcome to our next episode of Unhypnotized. It's so great to have you here, and I can't wait to introduce our next guest to you. But before I do, I want to just remind everyone, or maybe you're new here, and this show is really about talking about solutions for a better world and, curating conversations with folks who are really making a difference. But most importantly, having a conscious conversation that can bring awareness to how fiat is potentially causing pain and damage to humans and therefore getting in the way of people feeling better, brighter, and more hopeful for a better world. But also, that can really stop us from even just contributing in our own lives and in our communities to a better world, too. So, we do like to bring attention and awareness to how Bitcoin can solve some of these problems. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome our beautiful guest, DJ Valerie B Love. It's so great to have you here today. Welcome. Would you
Uh,
like to just share something about yourself with our audience?
yeah, thanks so much, Heather. I really, really appreciate getting to talk with you about very, very important issues that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, and how Bitcoin can create some solutions that, are a little out of the box, but they're so right in your face. You're like, whoa, of course, this can solve these problems for these people. So I'm excited to dive into this conversation. And thanks, Dave, for introducing me to you. So that's amazing. And yeah, so aloha, everybody. My name is DJ Valerie B Love. I'm the host of the DJ Valerie B Love podcast and founder of Bitcoin for Peace. We're a project we're collecting stories from all over the world from people who have had before and after transformations of how Bitcoin has impacted their personal life, their financial life, their business life, their spiritual life. Some people get out of addiction using Bitcoin because they have hope for the future instead of feeling disempowered. So it's a pretty neat project. So we're looking at um, how can we use storytelling as another avenue, to bring people together, to help them feel seen and heard, and then of course to, get the word out and orange pill everybody. And yeah, so I'm super excited. I've always been on a mission to, use my skills and gifts to make the world a better place, certainly a better place than I found it. And I love technology and music and meditation, personal growth. And when I discovered Bitcoin, it was like, whoa. Even though I have a finance background, I used to work at Deloitte and Touche. I was a CFO, of a company. I was terrible at it. I mean, I could just because you can doesn't mean you should. Because I was always wanting to go do something different and more creative with my time. But I thought, like, you're supposed to do this thing, and so I compromised who I was for quite a while because I thought I needed to fit into this box, And then when I finally said yes to my soul and my creativity, I became a DJ and got to go do this whole new life, And um, so yeah, it's important to understand like how sound money, if we do not have it, then all of these initiatives, whether you're an environmentalist, whether you're an activist, whether you're a healer, whether you're an entrepreneur or a coach, whether you're a teacher, none of those beautiful world changing projects are going to be able to flourish in a way that they can if they're built on toxic soil, aka fiat, versus sound money soil, which is Bitcoin. And so you're going to be growing, a field of this can kind of work and it's going to be sort of okay. Or you can grow on a field of Bitcoin at the base layer of all of these projects and have the most beautiful projects and the most beautiful world and the most beautiful future for our children. And so once I kind of connected those dots and recognized like we're missing this, we keep building in toxic soil. that was such an aha moment for me. And I recognized, like, wow, how do we join the change makers on the planet and help them understand, how Bitcoin is a tool for them to exponentially grow their projects, to grow their missions, and to make something that's sustainable, that isn't just a short-term win, but it's
Mhm.
long-term generational vision for the future and for the planet and the
Absolutely.
people. So that
Yeah.
was just like, whoa. So it's
That's so many things there too, there are so many things already just said there. And one of the things I like to do is like pay attention to what our guests are saying because there's a lot of people watching that are new to this
yeah.
and that are new to Bitcoin. And there's a couple things I want to highlight that you said in there that I think are really potent and powerful. One being that you understand the whole you understand the whole path of being unhypnotized
Yeah.
because you went from being in that program of like what you thought you had to do and what you
Yep.
thought was success
Yep.
to really embodying your passion, your purpose, and like what you're really here to do. So kudos to becoming unhypnotized and being
Thank
part of the contributors of the planet.
you.
And then the other thing, of course, we really connected being moms and Bitcoiners and also women on a mission to help people heal and evolve and be the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
And I love how you connected this to the change makers, to the light workers.
Yeah.
And that's why Bitcoin was just a no-brainer for me once I truly understood its potential and what it really is and how it just makes sense for somebody that is on a path of like helping people heal, or the way I see it as being a hypnotherapist for so many years is like I'm always been unhypnotizing people from the programs that keep them
Yeah.
unhappy, unhealthy, unfulfilled, unloved,
Yeah.
and then the last point that you made was also I love this analogy of the toxic soil
I
and
know.
oh my gosh, I'm gonna use that so much.
Yay.
It makes sense, and we're really trying to make sense in a more simple way about Bitcoin here because there's a lot around economics to learn, and there's a lot of shows that do focus on those types of things. But I
Yeah.
think it's really important just to realize, like, when you were saying that, I thought, right, it's like GMO versus like heirloom.
Exactly. And it's just like people forget, and because we've been so conditioned to think that that's how the system works, and well, that's just the way it is, and these people are smarter than I am, and they're the millionaires, and they're the the doctors and whatnot, and it's just like, no, this is a system with the incentives for those people to make lots and lots of money and extract it from us, and not think, how are we regenerating? And so I think of regenerative agriculture and regenerative ranching, and I'm still, learning. I have some friends who have ranches and farms here, and they've taught me so much, and just working with, getting to go to some different events that are environmental events. And I'm like, wow, it's about the soil. If we don't have the best soil on planet Earth, we're going to die. Like, we've got 50 years worth of food production at the rate we're going right now. And, and
Yeah.
if we don't start thinking about the earth and the soil in the same way that we're thinking about the financial system, like, we're going to have this giant currencies collapsing all over. And that's going to cause another set of wars like that are unprecedented, And so,
Yeah.
as much as I think a lot of us healers and change makers want to just be like, no, let's just focus on the kumbaya stuff, you know, it's like, you have to focus on money too, and if we don't have um, a sound money system, we're going to be continuing to have, you know, 2, 3 jobs just to make ends meet, which is gonna lead to the collapse of the family system, which we see the kids don't have their parents at home when they get home from school. And so
Mhm.
what are they doing? They're going out and finding something to do. A lot of times that's drugs, that's sex,
Mhm.
that's, getting into trouble. And so we're creating this generational trauma because of the broken money system, and I feel like if we can pull it back a little bit to the basics and start teaching ourselves and our family about, like, this is what sound money looks like. and let's start opting into this and investigating this and not being afraid of, you know, asking questions about economics and asking questions about
Mhm.
decentralization because they seem so
Or
foreign and weird.
yeah, or even just talking about difficulties and struggles and like, so many times there's parents protecting their children from these realities rather than like informing and teaching them. And what I heard in what you were saying is that as healers or change makers or light workers,
Mhm.
I found something else we have in common. You're obviously a cycle breaker too.
Let's do it.
And
It
like
stops here.
we've done that like internal
Yeah,
work to free ourselves from the systems like that, we grew up in, and to free ourselves from like, you know, things and beliefs and ways of being and seeing things that we learned potentially growing up or from our past generations.
yeah,
But I think it's really valuable, DJ Valerie, how you brought back in, that money and the foundation and the soil, because that's where I've gotten to, which I didn't really expect to get to, because I actually found a place in my life where I can just be happy no matter what chaos is around me. Like
awesome.
I was talking to Scott about this and how like I used to use surrender as a coping mechanism, and then like I really learned to like be happy kind of no matter what was happening, and learning that, happiness is an inside job.
Totally.
And so I'm always surprised by myself now when I go, right. But from this place, we can also recognize that on the outside, like what's happening in our families and in our world is really important to look at. And
Yeah,
it's really important to become aware of. And, like we were talking earlier, of like having this fall from innocence in a sense, and just be
yeah,
willing to see, but what problems and continued and new trauma is our current fiat system causing,
yeah,
and in all areas of life and the world. And that's why I'm really looking forward to your thoughts on especially what that's doing in the home.
yeah.
And then, of course, everyone will get to some solutions not to just pull you down, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, totally. And well, I mean, obviously I think Bitcoin is life or death for many of us, and us in the first world are privileged with the dollar, and so it's not as life or death in our situations, you know? And so in a lot of developing countries, you get, people who have these hyperinflating currencies. Women can't own property in certain places. If you're being abused, and don't feel safe in your home and you don't have a financial way to escape that is, yours and untraceable and unconfiscatable, you're going to be stuck. You're going to be a prisoner. You're going to be a slave in a situation that is toxic, that is dangerous, and could sometimes, unfortunately, be deadly. And um, I think it's important that we think about, you know, how Bitcoin is solving for those types of problems too. A lot of people, of course, I got into Bitcoin because it was like, oh, cool, number go up. This is neat, and then I started researching and comparing the difference between Bitcoin and crypto and la la la. And and then I listened to Alex Gladstein, talking about Roya Maboob and escaping, Afghanistan and Iran and having the seed phrases in her shirt. And I'm just like, she's alive now because of this technology. If she was trying to escape with her local currency and get out, she got robbed. All of her stuff would have been gone. She's not able to open up a bank account in another country. She's a refugee, and so that to me was like the biggest aha moment. And I was just like, okay, forget all this other stuff. This looks like it's a lifeline for people who are in dire need of support, And so it just, wow, it was just, again, super duper dot connecting. And so I've been very passionate about Bitcoin because of these types of solutions. And, as somebody who has experienced, uh, we're not, and we'll talk about this. You and I were talking before. We're not allowed to say right now, because this is going to go on YouTube. We're not allowed to say, can I spell it out? DOMESTICVIOLENCA.
Well, it's not that
Mhm.
we're not allowed to. It's just that we'll be, this won't maybe reach as many people as could really benefit from like a potential solution for like the DV that they're experiencing.
Yeah, and so
Mm.
DV guys, connect the dots. It's being feeling unsafe in your home with a partner who is doing things to you financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually that are uh, hurtful. And so I was in a position years ago, and I gave up my career as a DJ and to be a mom, and I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I wanted to be the super mom. I wanted to have the cape on. Yay, I'm super mom. I'm going to be the PTO president and have all the kids over and the whole thing. And I was like, I'm going to be home after school and everything. And I gave up my financial sovereignty because my partner was, better at making money than I was. Um, and I was like, cool, you do money, I do domestic, and we're going to be like, chocolate and peanut butter. Let's go. And it was amazing for years, but there were little hints of like red flags. And then I was like, well, whatever. I'm used to this. I grew up in a house where, people called you names and all the stuff. And, so it was just this like, and the frog in the boiling water experience, And so going through that and getting it up to the point where it was like, okay, the water's boiling now. And there's been a physical situation that hurt me. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Do I just leave the second? Do I take my children and leave the second? I don't have I'm not set financially to go start a new life, because I trusted that I was going to be in this marriage for years and years and years. And so I found myself somebody who was capable of performing in front of 10,000 people on a stage, someone who's capable of running a business, someone who's capable of running, school boards and nonprofit stuff, everything. I found myself in a position of being a prisoner and being completely trapped and being completely overtaken by shame and feeling like, "Oh my God, how the heck did I get in this situation?" And so, if I would have had and taken time to have a financial safety net, just to be sure, I could have gotten out of a situation that was more, as time went on, got dangerous, and thank God now my co-parent and I are the best friends. We've resolved things, we've healed, we've done so much work for our trauma, and I applaud him so much, and I applaud myself. We both went through addiction, we both went through sexual abuse as kids, all this stuff, right? And so, holy cow, and but the message here for people listening, is if you don't have financial sovereignty in your life, you don't have choices. And when a human being doesn't have choices, you think of a caged animal. And instead of operating from up here and in our hearts, you're operating from that survival mechanism. You're not making clear choices. You're not, thinking of others. You're just in this like, ugh mode. And it's terrifying, So a lot of times, obviously, we get trauma responses. We fight, we flight, we freeze, or we fawn. And those things don't lead us to be the best versions of ourselves. And certainly when it's repetitive, right? If we're in this repetitive cycle. And so instead of being fully vital and energized to go out there and do our missions on the planet, to save the whales, to help the children, to educate the world, to help the planet, what we're going to be down here and we're never going to be fully vital. And so, and again, that missing ingredient of making sure that we have the choices because we have financial sovereignty somehow. And so Bitcoin is like a whoa, that's something, from a savings perspective, but also from just an escape hatch perspective that's untraceable. You can't have your partner go in and say, oh, well, I'm taking her off the joint account. She doesn't have anything. Or if you open up another account at a bank in your name and your partner finds out about it, like you could get beat up or killed, and that happened with a guest of mine. And she was on my show and I told her, I was like, "Are you sure you wanna tell your story about this whole experience?" And I'm like, "I can anonymize your name and anonymize your face." And she said, "No, no, no, I'm ready to share." So we did the whole story, epic episode. And, she was talking about just the slow, insidious little freedoms that started getting pulled away in her relationship. He's got surveillance cameras in the house. Oh, it's just so that I can keep an eye on you and the kids and make sure no intruders come. Okay. She doesn't have her name on any of the bank accounts. Oh, it's just better, the tax and da da da, whatever. And so she's like, okay, that's weird. He's giving her cash instead of credit cards to go shopping. So it's just nothing was uh, adding up, but just bit by bit, she just started, it's like red flag, red flag, red flag, and just the volatility of the relationship was, up and down. And, she could tell something was wrong, but she's got young children. Um, so she knew about Bitcoin, and she was like, I'm going to start just taking a little bit of this cash, and I'm going to get a burner phone and have my mom hold it out of the house. So, and then she started accumulating, a little stack of Bitcoin every time she got some cash. And because she could just sense like the pressure cooker, the volcano that was ready to erupt in her home, but she didn't have the means to escape, and certainly start a new life and take care of those beautiful children. And so, unfortunately, one thing led to another, and there was some violence. And then, thank goodness, she had that little bit of savings in Bitcoin that he could not touch, he could not confiscate, he could not do anything with. And so, when it was time, she got all the cameras unplugged. She's like, "Okay, I've got 1 hour. I've got to get the out of the house," and she did. And that's unfortunately a very common story, not with the Bitcoin part, but people, not just women, men too. We have to escape um, after something it just gets to the head and it blows up, And so, now knowing that this person had that experience, I've learned so much, and I've really shifted a lot of my attention to talking about this subject, because think about like the thousands, the tens of thousands, the millions of people who are in situations like this. You think about, I don't know if you're allowed to say HT, human trafficking, can we talk about that? So if you're being somebody who is being,
Yeah.
trafficked, or you
Yeah.
don't, if you have a bank account, if you have all this stuff, they're going to find
Yeah.
you. But
Yeah.
if you're able to slowly squirrel away some Bitcoin anonymously, you're going to have an escape hatch when you see a window of opportunity to get out, you know, because if you're trying to put cash under your bed, they find your cash, they're going to beat you up,
Mhm.
and so,
Mhm.
um, so I think it's a really, really important thing that we, and then think about the impact of just that one situation and how the children were feeling, right? In any of these situations, like when you're in a household where there's that anxiety and that stress and that fear, it's like a soup, right? It's like you're in this energetic soup of fear, and the children feel it the most, right? Animals and children are
Course,
like these little innocent sponges, and they can feel
course.
it. They don't process it the same way that we do because they're not verbal, and their brains aren't as developed, but they're storing these traumas inside of their tissues. And you know this obviously as a hypnotherapist. And so if they're not able to somehow process this as, they grow and as they get into adults, it leads into all sorts of, uh, malfunctions of our operating system. We become addicted. We have physical things that are wrong. We're not thinking clearly, we're not operating in the higher states of consciousness. And so
Mhm.
just that alone is causing these traumas for our children if we don't get them into, environments that don't feel toxic. And so, um, so we've been working with,
Yeah,
I'm just starting to
I'm just gonna
oh,
stop
sorry.
you there
Yeah.
for a moment just because,
Yeah, sorry. I know I can babble and go on for 10 years here.
well, I like to reflect on the wisdom that's been shared
Mm,
because, uh, like, this is mind-blowing, and, I wanna take a moment to just recognize the value that you just delivered in connecting those dots to Bitcoin and the potential that it has to not only free people from situations where they're being harmed and, oh my gosh, the children, which is the future of humanity,
yeah.
but also the people that are unwell because they're staying in something that is really not supporting them or feeding their heart or their soul, or it's just become like a routine kind of friendship with the person that they love or live with. And I know that's not as serious as a situation, but I've been really into this idea of the new normal. And I don't know if you've seen that new Gabor Mate book called The Myth of Normal,
No,
but
I
oh, it's
haven't. I
amazing. And
love him. So, okay, next on my list here.
I got goosebumps, like thrill bumps right now
Mm,
because him and his son, they really go into how what's become normal is unwell.
yeah,
And it's the same with money, but it's also, the rise of autoimmune diseases in women, for example, are often rooted in these domestic situations, domestic and work.
yep,
And I won't get yet into like how that's rooted in money, but just even recognizing that whether they're being like from being harmed in the home to being in a situation that keeps them unwell. I have worked with various women that try to work out, try to stay in their relationship, try to work out because they are so intertwined with
yeah,
kids and homes and cars and all these purchases, fiat purchases or even debts.
mhm,
And then also women that they have become very sick in their marriages and in their relationships and don't see a way out, or just kind of just keep going thinking that they can keep, they can make it better, they can do better.
yeah,
And this idea of the myth of normal and how it's somehow become normalized for us to, as women especially, to stay and just keep trying.
yeah,
And I guess like I know a lot of women that, like myself, like I didn't have a harmful situation, but I would have become unwell if I stayed because my
yeah,
heart and my soul needed to expand and move on.
yeah,
And I noticed a lot of times that even if they got to a place of feeling better in themselves, they couldn't, it was the money that
yeah.
was really keeping them. And I think that we could even say that we are probably speaking to some people listening right now, men and women, that are in this situation.
Totally, and it doesn't have to be DV
Yeah,
necessarily, right? It's
yeah.
simply like there's so many folks who are in, um, families, situations, marriages, whatever it might be, or stuck in some, job that because the money isn't available for you to go make that choice, and because of inflation and hyperinflation and what's happening, our purchasing power has been decimated. It messes with your mental health, of course, and that leads to physical health issues, like you said. And so it's not just impacting people who are, of course, um, in those the violent situations. It's very, I think we talked last week about Seb Bunny's book, The Hidden Cost of Money. Excellent book. Everybody should read it. It's fabulous, especially if you're a parent,
Mm,
or want to be a parent. It's extremely important to understand, the way he lays everything out and how the money is really, again, decimating our family units, and our ability for, one of the parents to stay home and parent the child, because we're really in this position where it's like you need a two-earner household, in many, many places in the country, in the world, to keep your
mhm.
nose just above water, and that, of course, is causing huge trickle down effects, and ripple
Yeah,
out, trickle down, whatever.
yeah.
And so,
Well,
um
and that's actually another part of the like what is the norm that's unwell is like so many people staying in jobs that are also harmful and
yeah,
sometimes where they are just being treated bad and like or maybe even is somewhat abusive. But then also like I can't tell you, I don't even actually know if I know a person that I haven't spoken to that is getting more on their plate as they let go of like more staff in different areas.
mhm,
So there's just this overwhelming amount of work that's like being put on people in the workplace. And it's kind of the same situation, or I don't know, maybe you can shed some light on this, but I started seeing this as like the same type of situation where they can't leave because it's
yeah,
so intertwined and like ingrained into all these areas of their life. And but yet their heart, well, you can probably really speak to this, yet their heart and their soul is like, I'm being called to do more, to do something different. And it's literally causing pain, sickness, illness, because the body is like, get the F out of here.
Yes, exactly. And you feel that like little splinter in your mind, that is not letting you go because it knows, your soul knows, your heart knows your mission here on earth. Like I believe we all came here to do something, and of course to me, love is the number one thing that we can actually do and be. My name is Valerie B Love. I changed my name after my divorce. Like this is my legal name, is Valerie B Love, because it's my mission. Like every time I look at that, I was like, don't forget, Val, that's your sticky note. Um, but I believe our souls come in and they have some curriculum. They have an agenda. They're supposed to go do stuff. And when we're not on track and we keep going over here because we're told we're supposed to fit in this box, like I did under the blue lights and the pantyhose and the business suits at Deloitte and Touche and this other company that I worked at. I just thought, well, this is the way the game goes, and you're supposed to go do this and make the money and pay the bills, and then you die. Oh, that sucks. Like, I don't want to do that, And I think I grew up in a family. My father, was in World War II. He was in Korea. He was a very, very, very wounded man, and his whole thing was just like, you're supposed to work, you're supposed to pay the bills, and then you die. Like that was his philosophy on life. And and I'm just like, that's sounds so depressing, And he also had a philosophy that, uh, women are either whores or mothers. And if you're not, you'll get to be one. You're not going to be an entrepreneur. You're not going to be a judge. You're not going to be whatever you want to go be. But this is the two roles of women. And so I was like, I love you, Fast Eddie, but nice to meet you. My name's Val, and F off. Like I'm going over here. Um, but I was the first person in my whole family ever to go to college, and I paid for it and as a bartender. So I had no college debt. And I recognized like I didn't want to be saddled with that. I want to be free. I want to go have a career. I want to go make a difference in the world. And so I think that there's a harmony that needs to happen for all of us who are change makers, who are artists, who are creators, who are the light workers and the healers. You can't go do all of that good stuff if you don't have an entrepreneurial foundation. If you don't know money, and then certainly now that we have Bitcoin, if you don't know Bitcoin plus your entrepreneurial skills, you're only going to get this far, and you're going to be the starving artist. You're going to be the one who's trying to do the thing, and then you got to go put a hat on at McDonald's. So the next interview I have is with Tatiana Moroz in like an hour or so. And we're going to talk about how Bitcoin is helping artists, And so
Yeah.
there's that fine
Although
line of
I'm
we
just,
have to have work stuff and we have to have our passion. You can't have one or the other, or
but I
you're
actually
not gonna.
think it's like not quite like that. Like I actually
Okay,
think,
let's hear.
yeah, because I think it's not even just like that's the baseline. Like, yeah, there's so many people that like want to have their healing coaching kind of business as like a business, but I've actually seen it and experienced it differently for myself and like others that we have reached that level of success. And
Okay.
without the knowledge of money and without the needing to know that, because we're so aligned with our path and our purpose,
Okay.
and like, but here's the thing,
Mm,
that's where there's like another fall from grace, like, or from innocence. That's where there's like another pain that's revealed, because this is actually something I see way more in my industry of healing and holistic health, because there's a couple of reasons that this doesn't work even successfully with a fiat system. So one reason is that we're taking on the burden of an inefficient medical industrial complex,
yeah.
but we are not experiencing the benefits like somebody who works in the medical industrial complex. We don't have paid holidays. We
Right.
don't have severance. Like we don't have retirement, even if that's like, maybe not what it seems. But we actually have zero job security. We don't have support. Anything we need, if we need a pen, we got to buy it. We don't have IT. Like we don't have all of these privileges that are afforded if you work in, say, the medical industrial complex or the
Yeah.
medical world. But yet we're we have the burden, we're taking on the burden of like their inability to heal instead of just treating sickness or treating symptoms. So that's the first thing, which is this a real fast track to burnout from someone who does want to care. And
Right.
I've seen this tons and tons of times over and then experience it for myself where I was by far and wide the highest earning hypnotherapist in Saskatchewan. And it wasn't even that I had to do that much. Like I just kept serving the needs of all the people.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I hit a wall too where I realized, well, is this success if I am like sacrificing everything for it? Is this success if at the end of the day my money is not holding its value? Is
Yeah.
this success if when this happened, when I really worked my ass off and like got to that next level, which everybody says is like, wow, you're so successful. And then I literally had the most massive tax bill to
Mm.
pay, and I have seen this over and over and over again. And so I like to just bring it out of like not just the starving artist or someone that really feels that passion to do it. And this is another thing that we have in common because I never felt like I had the luxury to just like not listen to my body and be like my body gets so mad at me
Yeah.
if I following like my purpose
Yeah.
or like my purpose to herald in a new humanity, which ultimately means I got to face shit myself. I have to go through it myself. And I
Yeah.
truly believe like I was meant to have that level of success
Yeah.
to then be able to see the facade and like the ill foundation, or like you said in an even better way, the mal soil, like the bad soil that's like a part of that. And so just with that in mind, I like where you were going with like this being very important for all people, as to I guess be curious. I want to say be
Yeah.
willing, but I actually want to say be curious to learn about money and to
Yes.
learn about what. Yeah, tell us more about that because you can talk to that better.
Well, from my family history, you don't talk about money, politics, or religion at the dinner table. You just don't do that. And you don't do that in public, in company, in mixed company. You don't talk about those things.
Same,
And to me, I'm like, okay, fine. Religion and politics we can leave over here, but money, especially from a parent to a child, is so important, because they don't teach us money in school. They don't teach us, fiscal responsibility. We don't have like financial literacy. Uh, and so we're kind of left to our own, oh gosh, okay, I got a credit card. Great. Okay. What does this checkbook thing look like? Okay. I got this W-2 and then they told me I have some 401k thing. Okay. So a giant swath of humans don't have the foundational understanding of money and why it's their fuel that goes in the tank so that they can go do things in the world and have choices. And so they end up getting, manipulated, in many different areas. Oh, look, you can get another credit card to pay off that one. You can do this, all those things. Look, there's crypto. You're going to 10x your money overnight. All the scammy stuff that the vultures do, to suck the blood out of us humans. And so not having conversations about money and getting curious and understanding that it literally is the fuel in the tank is doing yourself the biggest disservice as an individual and certainly as a parent. And if you don't know about money, there's lots of resources to learn about it, that and never trust one resource ever. Like, do your own research. Everything I say, don't believe it. Go poke holes in the things that I say. Like, I don't want you to believe me. I want you to prove me wrong because maybe I can learn something new. But there's always, like comparing and contrasting a couple different sources of information and drawing your own conclusions, because the stuff that like my kids are getting taught Keynesian economics right now in their classrooms. Nobody's talking about Austrian economics. And I'm not some hardcore economics person, but I'm like, I want them to learn the different perspectives and let them decide what they think is the solution for the future and for our planet. And but they're just like, "Oh, mom, you're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about." And I'm like, "Okay, check this book out and do," so it's it's important though, because if you don't have money skills, you don't have the survival skills that you need. And then unfortunately, you're going to have those mental health issues or spiritual issues. And then you're using these external substances as coping mechanisms. And then unfortunately, a lot of times it leads to these awful addictions. And then you see all these folks on the streets, because they're just trying to cope with the pain and the overwhelm because they don't have the foundational skills to become an adult. And
Mm-hmm.
money is adulting,
Really
and
said. I mean, and I think we could tie that really easily into then why our relationships are falling apart and why people are harming each other in their relationships instead of growing together.
yeah.
And I think it's really important to just recognize that, because I think sometimes it's just easy to be like, oh, well, you just have to do this and like you just have to do this. And I know for myself, like, just being someone who's able to facilitate really rapid change in people, but then also realizing that there's just some things that are harder to change, and change is actually really hard,
It is hard.
especially if we take into account like our destiny and, the more complex challenges that we came here to go through in order to serve in the way that we came to serve. I
Mhm.
do want to have a moment of just recognizing and having total understanding and compassion for people that might be listening to this, because I find a lot of times when I'm listening to Bitcoiners, I start to just feel like really overwhelmed. And not that I'm saying that about you. It's
It's
just like,
okay. I have a tendency to do that.
no, it's like an honestly like a generalization that
Yeah.
I'm making, because I think there's a certain grounding that's amazing listening to someone that's already did this and like that's their foundation and they've got that safety and security that Bitcoin provides.
Yeah.
But I think for those of us, and I'll put me in there too, because I'm just building, or I built it last, but I'm really just coming around to this. Like, I can't wait till I'm there. And I find that it can really feel like a lot. Like, it can
Yeah.
feel like a lot to be like, holy crap, everything I know is like a lie. And I didn't grow up learning money.
Mhm.
And that's part of actually what happened to me, is like I started making way more money, but I had no knowledge about it. And I think that we have the we have the opportunity to not only just help people become curious about the system of money that they're using, but whoever's watching this and like resonating with this is like, you actually have like a head start, because you get
Mhm.
to now go into learning about money with like your eyes wide open,
Yeah.
because a lot of people learned about money and also got fucked by the system too, because it's not designed for the abundance for all.
No. Hmm.
And it's not designed for the abundance and well-being of all. And I think that that's also part of the pain of transformation too, is like the first part is the pain that we feel when we realize the betrayal and the lies that we've been told, that we really thought we were doing the right thing and then realized that these people didn't care at all about our health or well-being and abundance. And I think just taking a moment of like self-compassion, self-love, when those feelings come up and when you start to realize like, oh my god, what a freaking disaster. And even though we know that the more evolved way is to just like understand that, our parents and people that taught us, they could only teach us what we know,
Yep.
what they knew or what they learned, what they
Right.
know. But I think that that's a really important step that sometimes just gets bypassed, just in life, in the world, which is just like, right, let's feel all this that's coming up when we start to realize, oh my God, I was so like blind, or I didn't know
Yeah.
then.
It
from that space.
It's so I love you're bringing this up. This is super important. And so I'm wearing, I don't know if you guys can see, I'm wearing my butterfly dress today. This is my super transformational dress. And uh, I wore this to rehab 8 years ago. And because I was like, okay, I'm going to be a butterfly. I'm going to go in. I'm going to, transform my life. All this crazy shit happened. I snapped, I got addicted to alcohol, all these things. I didn't have good coping mechanisms and my life completely fell apart. But I was like committed to transforming because I knew like that's not who I really am. I am this light worker. I am this love being. I'm a love warrior. Um, I wrote an article called The Bitcoiner's Dilemma, and it talks about, the how destabilizing it is once we start to see the truth. And you can't unsee it. It's like coming out of the matrix, right? And so you either are going to go stay and put your head back in the sand and go live in denial land, or you're going to have that reckoning with these new pieces of information, and you were saying earlier about the loss of innocence, and so when our egos construct a worldview of how everything works and how the system works and what the intentions of all these, three-letter agencies are and whatnot, we create a safety net around our world. You have a mental safety net, like, okay, cool. The doctors care about me, and the politicians like go team blue or red or whatever, and so we construct these giant worldviews, and we construct relational views as well. And so when we get the new information, like you said, it's having that self-compassion to not beat yourself up and think like, "You stupid, like, how could you have not seen this sooner?" And, that's an easy thing that I think some of us do, and then we get through stages, I think, of grief and outrage, and you're just like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that they're doing this," and what else the fuck are they doing, and what else is wrong and a lie in my life? And so then it starts to pull the thread on the sweater, and it keeps unraveling and unraveling and unraveling, and it used to be warm in that little protective mechanism that that you built. And so you have to be naked for a little while during a transformation, and you have to be okay knowing that, like, and trusting that you're going to turn into the butterfly eventually, but you do have to be willing to go get into that goo, into the chrysalis. And so, you question relationships. Earlier you'd spoken about losing some friends during COVID and during this process. I've lost friends becoming a Bitcoiner. I've lost friends because of my life choices. And it's just like, okay, that doesn't fit anymore in the new paradigm, in the new worldview, and the new view of myself in relationship to, the God and spirit and the universe. And so it's sad, because we have attachment towards things because they give us a sense of security or a sense of love and connection. And then when you have to close the door and the chapters on things, sometimes it can be very lonely, and it can feel very like uncertain, and you can feel like, did I make the right choice? Am I insane? And you're questioning your sanity again, and so unless we have others to reflect with on this journey, you can definitely question that sanity, and, oh, maybe I should just go back and go, don't question, don't say anything, don't speak against this. I'm just going to go back because this is easier. It's comfort. You're in your comfort zone. And so, it's the subtitle of the article is dancing in the discomfort zone. And so it's really about, can I be okay with discomfort? Is it going to kill me? You know?
Oh, we could have a whole episode on that.
I
I
know, right? And
about
so
discomfort, like,
'cause
this
we're
is
so conditioned to like, "Oops, ouch, everything feels uncomfortable. I have to take a pill. I have to turn off,
yeah,
tune into
well,
social
and it's so
media, get drunk, whatever."
readily available. It's so
Yeah,
ready, but make sure, can you share that with me
yeah,
on X, and then
yep,
I'll retweet it because
yep.
I would love to read it, and I'm sure everyone watching this would love to read it, and I love how
Cool.
you brought in the butterflies, and something that resonated with me, and I'll share this, and then we'll kind of wrap things up, and then I'll make sure everyone gets an opportunity to find out what you're doing next because that's really awesome
Cool,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. And I also changed my name. This is the name I created. It's actually a four name from being divorced. And being just stepping into myself. And
Yeah.
as you were talking about that, I thought, right, like of course I lost friends when I left my marriage. I actually lost friends at various times in my life. And I think that that message is one that is so powerful to share and just to remind people, like it is lonely, and it is really helpful to reach out and even listen to things like this that will keep empowering you and
Yeah.
keep reminding you that you are doing the right thing, because
Yeah.
staying would likely have kept you sick. And it's better to be lonely than sick. And plus knowing that you're not alone, and
Yeah.
we're not even just that we're here, but like source, universe, God, spirit, divine, it will always support you
Hmm.
when you're truly making those decisions that are right for you. And I think it might be nice. Is it okay if I call you Val?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, it might be
I know.
nice, Val, if you like just kind of as a wrap up, because I like how we got into something that is amazing, like which is the freedom that Bitcoin can offer for people that are in harmful situations.
Yeah.
And maybe if you can just give us a wrap up on that as we start to close up here.
Okay, cool. So I just started, I just told you right before we got on our call, I had a call with Linda Parker, who is the CEO of Women in Distress. And they're a nonprofit organization in Florida that was at the Women in Bitcoin brunch in Nashville. And so we were raising some money for them and trying to help people understand, what is DV and how does it impact everybody? But then how can Bitcoin also serve as a tool? And so I told her about, the episode that I did, obviously my story, and she's, obviously a Bitcoiner. Um, and the woman who was on my show, she teaches at women's shelters now. Like she goes and has a way of sharing with these women who can start very carefully, step by step, understanding what Bitcoin is and understanding how to save in Bitcoin so that if and when the time comes to escape, that they're going to be covered and they're not going to have, loose ends or anything that could lead them into a place of being harmed even further. So I was talking with Linda and I was like, okay, Linda, I've been working on this book called Snap Goes the Mommy for a while. And I want to share all these different stories about, people who have had, their lives fall apart in one way or another, mental, physical, financial, etc. Um, Domestic violence. Oh God, I said it. Oops. Sorry, YouTube. Uh, you can bleep me. But it's important that we share stories. Bitcoin for Peace, I've got the whole project because we want to bring stories about and share them about people's transformations in all walks of life with Bitcoin. But when you bring it down to a more narrow focus with these people getting out of these situations, it's like when you hear other people's stories again and again and again, and they're just like, oh my gosh, like that's a CEO and that happened to her. That's a doctor. She's an astronaut. What? And then you're like, well, okay, that makes me not feel so alone, and that makes me feel brave so that perhaps I could raise my hand and ask for help and not feel ashamed. And so shame is such a toxic poison that that pulls us under the water and does not allow us to breathe and doesn't want us to move forward. It wants to beat us up and make us feel terrible about ourselves. And, when you're all alone, and isolated, the shame is so powerful and it can keep you from, raising your hand and getting help. And so by the power of storytelling from all of these different angles, and then also not just, oh, this was my story, but it's like, this was my solution on top of it, and so there's recipe books, right? It's like, okay, this is how she did this. And this is how he did it. This is how they put Bitcoin in. This is how they do a daily meditation practice. This is how they make decisions and, serve God instead of serving ego, etc. So it's good to tell stories, but then you also have the recipes, to find the solutions. And so we're going to start working on this project, and we're going to be doing a Bitcoin for DV summit in probably October. I think we haven't set the date yet. And so we want to get the word out there and orange pill all the people who are trying to get out of these types of situations and help them understand that this is one tool and many to support them. And then of course we want to DV pill the Bitcoin community. so that they can start understanding like, whoa, I live in this town and they might be maybe I can go do a talk at their shelter. And so coming up with playbooks so that people can, who are Bitcoiners, who are passionate, can say, cool, I want to go help, and not just here, strike a donation, make a donation, but it's like, you can go be an educator. And so we're going to be working on this project and I'm super excited. So it'll be on djvaleriebelove.com, and then we'll have, links for people to sign up for the summit and make donations, and the cool part that we'll be doing with the project, in addition to just the education, this is what we're also doing in Bitcoin for Peace. We're going to be doing lightning splits to everybody who's a contributor, and so rather than just, okay, you get, $100 for submitting a story or an article to this compilation, like anytime somebody's doing value for value and, making contributions in perpetuity, it will get split among the writer, the nonprofit, and then Bitcoin for Peace. And then that way we can just keep, you know, wow, it's Tuesday morning. Why am I getting sats in my wallet? Says Sally, the woman who contributed. Wow, someone liked my article that I put in the Snap Goes the Human, the Snap Goes the Mommy series. And so it's just that, starting to help understand why Bitcoin and how Bitcoin can be easily integrated into these workflows and these cash flows for people, and it's Sats flows really, but so
I
anyway,
mean,
so that's
sure.
what we're up to.
I
Uh,
love this. And, as you were talking, because I recently got onboarded as a peer support for a women's center here in Calgary.
awesome.
Yeah, because I know that I can give back. I can give back. And as you were saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, if
Yeah.
I could like help them, oh my gosh, like, and then you started reading my mind and saying, and then we're gonna have a playbook for people that they could take it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, and then I could take this playbook, and like you already got me like so excited about that. And then I was just like, "Hi, Heather, like you felt called to do that for a reason." And then I was kind of sitting on it, just got busy. And then as you started saying that, I'm like, "Oh my God, wait." Like just reignited, like, because I do tend to just listen to, like, if I feel to go here and do this, I'll do that. Now you just helped it come full circle. And not only that, how awesome that you guys are going to provide that support for people to do that in their communities.
Totally. And that's the thing. Like obviously the open source ethos of Bitcoin is so powerful. It trickles out into all these areas. And so it's just like, of course we want to put like all the slide decks and all the information materials and the onboarding and what
Mhm.
is safe, and everything. So it's super important that we keep this ethos alive in all these different segments of life, um, and so it's definitely transformed the way that I think and how I uh, operate and how I want to share information with the world. And because a lot of people are in their like little IP cave and, oh no, 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 you can't see my
Right.
stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
Gigi's up here. Where is he? Gigi, he talks about information wants to be free. And
Mhm.
so, yes, it does. So let's get it out there. And if we can add a layer of that value for value mindset on top of it. So
Yeah.
if people want to contribute and have an energy exchange and say, cool, this was worth, 10 sats or 10 million sats or whatever you want to say. Um, then there's something that's equitable and you're not putting gates around information, especially when it's life changing information and life saving information, And so it's such a cool thing. I feel like I can't imagine my life without Bitcoin. I can't
Oh,
imagine my life without the Bitcoin community and the generosity and the kindness and the brilliance of people like you and Dave and all of these folks around the world who are just like, let's do it. Let's just keep going. We got this. Let's meet me. Nobody's asking for anything in exchange for, oh, you owe me because I made this introduction or, oh, it's just like, no, we are on a mission because we see the vision for the future and we see that these tools, Bitcoin is one of many, but like it's just like so humbling and empowering to get to be on the journey with everybody. And
oh,
I'm
yeah.
so grateful. I can't imagine life without Bitcoin.
Thank you for saying that. That's an emotional point for me, and I haven't said it on this show yet. So I'll share this because I might get a little emotional because it is something that for me, I felt like this summer we had the SAT market and the Bitcoin rodeo here in
Mhm.
Calgary. And that's been like about a year since I kind of was in the community or knew about the community, but then it really came full circle and just me being more involved and contributing as well. and that, I came away from that week especially just feeling like I have never in my life felt just loved and supported and like people want my success
Yeah.
more ever. I actually have never felt like that truly in a community, even one that I contributed years to,
Yeah.
like devoted, like week, like just so much time and energy to. And I never felt that in that community or in those communities. And like it just hit me one day, like, oh my God, like I'm home. And
Yes, totally.
not alone anymore. Like I finally found a community of people that I love.
Yep.
Like I've always been like, let's grow together, let's love each
Totally.
other. But I finally found a community that also feels the same and like
Yeah.
wants my success and well-being. And I literally just like you can tell, I still tear up
Yeah.
because I'm so grateful that it found me too.
Isn't it that, like, I swear it does feel like home being with Bitcoiners. And, today's Bitcoin Infinity Day and 8/21.
Oh,
And, so this is neat that we get to do this episode today. And I agree. Like, I've been in many, many communities, whether they're healing communities, whether they're artistic communities, whether they're entrepreneurial communities, there's always a veil between us, and it felt like it's just something that I had to kind of hustle and prove my worth, or something that just felt a little off, that it wasn't just like we are all on this giant super mission together, and I don't know how to explain it. And this will be maybe we'll do another episode on
well, yeah, and
this.
it's
Yeah.
actually a really good intro to there's gonna be an episode about like why Bitcoin is not like an MLM
Yeah.
and you know it's not an MLM and why it's
Yep.
not like a fake networking thing because like
Yeah.
you're totally touching on those points where it's just such a like we can feel the gross energy of a like
Yeah.
tit for tat kind of
Yep.
like or for me I always experienced it like people just wanting to ride my my hard work and
Yeah.
capability to bring people together. And so, that's definitely coming up. And I know you and I, we could talk forever. And I thank you so much for being here. Um,
Totally.
yeah, it's just been such a pleasure to get to know you more. Oh, and if you want to just share where people can find you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And, blending Bitcoin with unhypnotizing people. It's so important that we unprogram ourselves from the matrix, obviously. And so I applaud the work that you're doing, and I'm so grateful to be on the journey with you, and we get to be home together. Yay. Um, um, and you're going to be on my show coming up. So I know you talked about like having you on. I'm like, let's see what we talk about on this one, and then we'll do another episode on my show. So I'm really looking forward to having you on. Um, but yeah, everybody can find me at djvaleriebelove.com, just the letter B. And that's my channel, or what do you call it, handle, everywhere on YouTube and all the socials, and Noster, you can get over there for sure. And sign up for the Love Warrior newsletter. I'm dropping lots of, hacks on how to be the best version of yourself. And, there's a little system that I've created that I'm working on sharing with everybody to, really implement a daily practice of your inner power and your inner love. And just, anybody who's listening to this episode, and if you're new to Bitcoin, if you're a little bit nervous, everybody's been there. It's like, how do I ask questions? What do I do? Like, I guarantee you, my DMs are always open for questions from anybody all over the world. Bitcoiners are so happy to help. We're so excited. We're so enthusiastic, and there's no dumb questions. And everybody started at zero. So
Yeah.
don't feel, and it takes years. I've been doing this for 3.5 years, and I literally still feel like I'm a kindergartner, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And you don't have to know everything. You just need to take a step, get off zero, and start touching and playing and feeling it, and I promise it won't bite. Uh
No, that's great. And actually, I've been offering some consulting to help people start
Yeah,
to buy their first Bitcoin or buy Bitcoin. and there'll be a little video after this that they can watch. But
Nice.
again, like, it's just been such a pleasure having you. Thank you for everything that you brought to the conversation, and I can't wait to be on your show and speak again.
Yeah, me too. I'm so excited. And until next time, everybody, peace, love, and warm aloha.
Ooh, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching. Remember to hit the subscribe and turn on the notifications so that you'll know right away when we have a new episode with another great guest. And if this episode got you wanting to buy Bitcoin, reach out to me. I'm an agent with Bitcoin Well, and I have a link down below to book a time in my calendar. And simply just book a call with me and we can get you started buying Bitcoin. And don't worry, no pressure. Let's have a conversation and see how Bitcoin can improve your life. Ciao for now.